what is that thing inside of me that needs approval? And then the insight of, why don't I just work with that word? Just be an approval of whatever experience is emerging inside of me. First and foremost, the thing that you can control is your level of approval of who you are and what you want.
Yeah.
And then that gives you the choice to reveal that as much as you feel you want to. It's so simple, and yet it's a profound practice, because it's not something I just do once. I got into approval of that fear. Now I'm liberated from fear. No. It's a constant. It's a dance. If this life that I'm living now is making me depressed, what do I actually want? And what I realized was,
join the journey, stay for a while.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of KohPhanCast, the official podcast of Copenhagen Island. And this week with me, I'm pleased to have Scotxi. Scotxi have years and years and years of experience in somatic therapy and coaching people about paradigm shifts. He's guiding people through their own transformations, needed and wanted. We sit and talk about the human way to reach themselves. What's the connection between suffering and outside validation? And what's the difference between self-acceptance and self-approval? What an incredible conversation. I was on the verge of tears the entire thing, if I may be honest, and I cannot wait for you to experience this energy as well. Before we get to it, guys, we're getting better, but most of you are still not subscribed. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it with your friends, write me in the comment section what you thought about this conversation, and let's get into it. KohPhanCast. Enjoy the episode, guys. Scotxi. Pronounced it right.
yes.
Thank you so much for being here with me, man.
Good video, bro.
We don't officially know. We had a little introduction right now, and I already feel like the incredible energy. Like when someone comes to this space and like talk slowly and like have their own like you can see when someone is composed. And I've heard a lot of good things about you, so I'm very excited for this one. Scotxi, for the people that don't know you out there, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I think there's a lot of ways you could describe what I do, and titles, I guess. But I think the first thing I'd like to sort of say is I'm a student, and I work with a lot of incredible traditions, and I've become a guardian of those traditions, and a sort of ambassador for those traditions. And those traditions that I work with, currently come from the Amazon and from Brazil and from India as well, where I'm based in Goa. But I work very closely with a lot of spiritual leaders from Brazil, from the Amazon, supporting their mission for the past sort of decade. And I lead one of the sort of largest communities in the UK that supports their mission. Working with their spirituality, their medicines, and that extends around the world as well. But in the absence of them, I present their traditions as best that I can as a student.
Something so humble about the way, because getting approached with the question of, give me 30-40-second introduction of who you are, tends to go, I do this, I am this, I stand for this. And you can recognize when someone starts with, I'm a student, there is this thing of the shift of perspective of I'm always able to learn. Yeah. And we're going to go straight into it. But before we get to the main ingredient, how did you even introduce yourself to those kind of realms? Because usually it comes with a journey, or it finds you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, it definitely found me, and it was it's a story. And
place.
And it starts with depression, actually. And I was in London in my late 30s, living in what I would call an extraordinary life. And yet I was depressed. And it took me about 6 months to realize that I was depressed. And it was really interesting to me because it took me that long to recognize it and to actually be in that situation, considering that at the time, I had an extraordinary life. And part of that was I worked with people. I was a sort of a coach and mentor to people with schizophrenia, with depression, with bipolar, that came from homeless backgrounds, that came from substance misuse backgrounds, frontline support. So I knew all the symptoms and the signs, and I lived with it every day, but I didn't see it in myself. But also what was really interesting was at that point I was, 10 years into a deep, deep mystery school training. In working with an incredible teacher, mapping consciousness, somatic regression. Before, everyone started talking about somatic experiencing and stuff like that, like doing that kind of healing work, working with emotions, becoming a practitioner in that as well. And so I felt like I was someone that knew myself, that had explored myself to a great depth, and yet I was depressed. Why was I depressed when I had all of these tools, all of this knowledge, and living the life I thought that I wanted? And so that led me on a bit of an inquiry, and started to explore a little bit of different sort of modalities, a particular kind of school of Tantra, which was useful to a point, but also created a lot more chaos, which Tantra tends to do. And but it came down to this question of, if this life that I'm living now is making me depressed, what do I actually want? And what I realized was, the insight that I got was, and a lot of teachers talk about this, that trap that we find ourselves in, where we're trying to attain something, we're trying to get somewhere, we're trying to reach the ideal. With money, with relationships, with our career, with our bodies, with sexuality, and we never quite get there, or we get there and it's fleeting. Suddenly, it's something else that we want, and that in all of this there is a feeling that we actually want to experience. That is the essence to me of desire. What is the feeling that we want to experience, and understanding that. In all of these experiences, that's what I'm looking for, is the feeling. But knowing, like, why am I doing that when I know that the feeling is just within us? Like, I can focus my attention. I have all these practices to come into that feeling. So I'm going to start addressing that. And I started going through a somatic process to ask my body to feel into this part of us that wants, that desires. What does it want to feel? Without my mind kind of trying to think the answer.
Yeah.
And like just working at this deep level of sensation and feeling that's inside. And how when we sit with that, with approval, like full approval, not just acceptance or allowing, but actually like saying yes to what is inside of me, something starts to emerge that then gives us a sort of language to start to describe what these signals are, these feelings that come up. And it's like, that feels good. That feels like, that reminds me of that time I felt really alive, and how do I describe that? And that takes a bit of time, and took me a little bit of time to sort of sit with this. But I realized I wanted to feel liberated, and I wanted to feel dangerous, and I wanted to feel electric, switched on in my body. I wanted to feel magical. And that was really interesting. It kind of gave me some words to speak to that experience inside of me. And they became kind of keys that were informed by a somatic process, a very authentic process. And that became my sort of way back into myself each day. Today I'm going to live liberated, a little bit dangerous. I'm going to be feeling electric and magic.
What's that? Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
What's the use of the word dangerous in those terms? Because what you describe is so wholesome and amazing, and then because at the end of the day, it's not the word, it's the energy that is behind the word.
It's what it means to you.
Yeah, exactly. So what does dangerous means to you in this specific situation?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Everyone asks me this question. Yes. I say that. And, so there was a feeling that I was a bit uncomfortable with. But it was also like, if I really got into approval of this feeling, I could do anything. I could drop all of my games. I could drop my masks. I could cut through all these sort of limiting dynamics that I get caught up in. I could actually do the thing that I wanted to do rather than waiting for permission from an approval from the world around me. That felt really dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, I can break out, you know, and it's not that I don't care what everyone else thinks, but it's like I'm acting from my own sense of will now. And just to me, that felt dangerous. That was the word, you know, and I had to get into approval of that because it was uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got into approval of it, it was just like, oh, wow. You know, and when I'm dangerous in life, and it's not like I go and do reckless things.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going out to cause harm.
Yeah.
I'm just dangerous because I know what I want.
Yeah.
And I'm not apologizing for who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not worried about, you know, that you're not going to like it so much.
Of course.
Because I'm doing what I want for a change rather than just everything that you want me to do.
Beautiful. It's like it's dangerous in the way of like potent. I know that I am working from something internal in me.
Yes.
This force is not centered around anyone else or anything else, and I can choose what I want to do it because I know from the depth of my heart that it is mine.
Yes. Yeah.
Incredible. And like through shedding, because shedding is also kind of important if I feel you right. Like, what was the main process in understanding like this depression? Were those things that you were learning or things that you were more focused about unlearning? Because usually in those kind of situations, throughout, like I've been through a couple of depressions myself, and I always saw myself as like, okay, for me to go through this, I probably need to shed some limiting beliefs, some systems like that I already acquired that are no longer serving me for me to progress more like lighter.
Yeah.
You know, and usually in my mind, it connects between like when I try to learn more, I bring more things on myself. But if I'm already feeling the weight, I don't need more, I need less.
Yeah.
So in your journey within you, like what kind of beliefs did you gain and what kind of belief systems you let go in order to step away from a state of a depression?
Yeah, I think it's about recognizing for me, you know, to recognize that I'm in depression, I notice that I have very little agency. I take on so much responsibility and I'm living to others' expectations and needs. You know, sometimes I have to do that because I have a job and I have a family and I have a community and I have, you know, things are expected of me that I am responsible for. I'm putting others first before myself. And so then my time is filled with taking care of all of these things and I don't have that for myself. And I have no agency for doing what I want to do. And that's where I felt like for me, depression would, back then, that's where it kind of creeped in.
Yeah.
But also at that point, it was a case of I didn't really know what I wanted for myself.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I felt like understanding the feeling was like a barometer of, you know, how connected to myself am I right now? Am I connected to this feeling of liberation, of dangerous, of electric, of magic?
Yeah.
And that was interesting because when I started to live from that place, you know, my life did a 180-degree turn. You know, what emerged over the course of 2 years was not on the 5-year plan when I was depressed that I'd done. It wasn't on the vision board.
Yeah.
It was beyond my imagination. You know, all the things that emerged were inconceivable to me. And so, you know, and the fact that, you know, I came from a tradition, a spiritual practice where it was all about alignment and knowing truth.
Yeah.
To see how different it is when you live from this embodied, authentic, you know, what I would call authentic desire, the feeling, how that brings you back into proper alignment because you start to feel those things that are not in alignment with you.
Yeah.
You know, and either you let go of those things or those things actually let go of you because you're not playing into those dynamics anymore.
Exactly. You stop feeding the energy to them.
Yeah. And so it was interesting. A lot of very good friends suddenly weren't there anymore, you know, And it wasn't that we had disagreements or anything. And it's not that, they're still friends, but just there was no resonance there anymore.
Yeah.
And different things kind of emerged. And then from that, this kind of, what I would call purpose emerged. And
that's exactly it. And just to go back to a point that you had, like, as a fellow people pleaser myself, years and years of like, I'm going to think about everyone because then everything is going to be as smooth, as bright as possible. And you forget about yourself and it's all about others and you start serving. But it only makes sense that even if you are the biggest people pleaser ever, like, taking care of yourself first will create a better version of you to serve others better.
Yes.
So even if you really want to be this conscious people pleaser, you still gotta take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So in the thought process, like, why would you think, like, what's the benefit of this thought, of this perspective of like, let's serve others first? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think it comes from, the deeper meaning we get from life when we are in service. To raise a family is probably one of the biggest acts of service that we can do. It's a long commitment. It's not just something we can quit at any time. We try, and some people do, but if you're in it for the long haul, it's a lifelong thing until they're old enough to leave the nest. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, wherever that may be. So there is something from service that we get a lot from, but it's just that we don't recognize, the need to feed our own agency. And it's really interesting, because I work with a lot of people in this process, and just finding that little bit of agency again, and from that sense of connection to yourself, that feeling, how much that shifts their state of being. Yeah,
there's like, and how I explain it to myself is like the concept of living life from inside out or from outside in.
Yes.
You can either choose to this situation happens, that's how it made me feel, that's how I feel now. Or you can understand that how you feel and how you experience yourself shapes the situation that are going to come, because everything is a lesson at the end of the day. And there is something to recognize in each thing that is coming, and at some point we're just going to be honest with ourselves and be like, okay, where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? What kind of cards am I working with? And go with it.
Yeah.
Or do we have any deeper layer within us and we can choose our cards, or we can, like, from like the somatic therapy that you're talking about and coaching, like, do you see any sort of like archetypes of humans? Because we are all different ways to express the same human. We are all the same human being expressed through tons of different expressions and experiences. And like any main archetype of a human of like, how is the most healthiest way to deal with ourselves?
I think it starts, there's a lot we can unpack here. And I've got a few frames that I can sort of share.
Please do.
But I think, foundational is the practice and the process of self-approval. And what I mean by that is, we all talk about, acceptance or allowing, or, these kinds of frames for connecting to our experience as it is, and this all kind of comes from Carl Rogers. He was a psychologist in Chicago University. Did a study back in the 50s, and his question was, why do some people benefit from therapy and other people don't? And so he recorded over like 1,000 therapy sessions, and what he discovered was that the people that got the most out of it received from their therapists unconditional positive regard, is what he called it. That was the thing that made people go, right, I feel really seen and I can relax because I'm getting this vibe from my therapist. Whereas a therapist that didn't give that, or they had sort of judgments, or were trying to fix things, or it didn't work as much. And the other thing was, one of his students, Eugene Gendlin, he also noticed that people that had the ability to feel their experience and speak to that also had a greater degree of change.
Yeah.
And so having gone through that kind of training through my school, and this kind of, what I would call like a somatic regression, somatic experiencing, to feel into trauma, allowing things to be there, accepting things that are there, and giving myself the permission to feel, started to shift a lot of things. But somehow something was kind of missing, and I didn't realize that until someone reflected to me my communication style, which was this people-pleasing thing. So always trying to get approval from other people. And it really sort of struck me. I really sort of recognized that I did that. And he didn't say anything more than that to me, but it was like, what am I not in approval? What approval am I actually looking for? What is that thing inside of me that needs approval? And then the insight of, why don't I just work with that word? Just be in approval of whatever experience is emerging inside of me. The sensations, the feelings, all my doubts, all my fears, all my, shame, all my guilt, all the things that we resist, my anger, my frustration, but also, and, essentially, what do I want? Because we have so much guilt and shame over, I want something, but I know it's going to get rejected. I don't want to show it to the world. So I'm hiding this essential part of me. I'm going to get into approval of these things just for myself. I may not ever do anything with it, but just that I'm in approval of what I want finally. And that is, the essence of that is this feeling I'm talking about. That's the way I can start to relate to it to desire on a somatic level and embody it.
Yeah, I'm resonating, bro, 100%. And what came up in my head while you asked the question of okay, where is this need of approval, need of validation comes from? Probably from the feeling of not feeling enough. Mm-hmm. Probably from having this voice in your head that tells you you're not enough, you're not doing enough, like you need others' approval to tell you that you're enough because you in yourself are not thinking you're enough. But can we put a finger on what it is, which obviously comes from past experience, childhood traumas, things like that? I understand. Can we point a finger about why a person gets to the point of thinking they're not enough? Mm-hmm. It's also varies between people, I would assume.
It's actually one of what I would call the 5 core fears.
That's good. I want to hear about that.
So the 5 core fears to me, so there's 5 core fears, and then there's the mother fear, where they all come from.
Yeah.
The first one is that we fear failure. We fear that we're wrong. So I may, try and start some endeavor, and my fear is I'm going to mess this up. Or it could be that, we're going out on a date for the first time, and our fear is we're going to mess up the date, fear of failure. But fear of being wrong as well. It's I have a perspective, I share that perspective, and it's different to someone else. And they don't give you that approval. They go, no, I think this. Yeah. So there's this reflection that, this could mean I'm wrong. Someone disagrees with me. Yeah. How dare they? So that's the first one. And the next one is fear of rejection. Pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And that stems from, the consequence of failing and of being wrong is that we may get rejection.
Yeah.
If we are rejected, then our fear is what you're speaking to, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
If I was good enough,
all of this,
I'd have all this approval. I would be good enough, Yeah. And this happens in childhood when we're, with our parents. We get this, yes, you're right, you've done a good job. You've done it good, and you get this approval and
validation.
I feel good enough. I'm doing a good job. But if we don't have that sense of being, good enough, it leads to this fear of that we will then have no value.
Yeah.
We put these things out into the world and no one cares. You're a parent, you're raising a child, you're putting everything into it, and your child is like, you make dinner and they just eat it. They don't say thank you. They don't, that kind of thing happens. Or you're at work and you're putting everything into work and no one's like paying attention to all the value you're bringing.
Yeah. The best thing can happen is that it will just go.
Yeah.
Nobody will tell you any mistake that you've done.
Yeah. And then the last one is, fear of humiliation, ridicule.
Yeah.
If I have no value, if I do all of these things, like, it's kind of, what was the point of all of that? This is where our shame and guilt kind of starts to emerge. So they're the sort of 5 core ones that I see.
Yeah.
But we experience that a certain way in the body. The tightness in the chest, the butterflies in the belly, or the different things. Sometimes we react to our fear through anger and rage. Comes out as a sort of destructive sort of power. So like self-approval is, the way I work with fear is it's to be an approval of the experience of how I experience fear.
Yeah.
The fear of messing something up, of failing at something, that brings up certain feelings inside of me. I did a talk once on, I was invited to speak to one of the largest entrepreneurial organizations in India, in Bangalore. And I was flown out. The talk I gave was at one of the big 5-star sort of hotels. Walk into the room, filled with super successful entrepreneurs, business people, made money, we're all schmoozing. And I come in like, I'm just this dude talking about, transformational journeys and stuff like that. I feel very inadequate, and all my nerves start coming in. And, they say that the greatest fear is death that we have. The second one is speaking in public. And so I was going through this process, and all these fears I'm talking about. I'm going to fuck this up. They're going to reject me. I'm not going to be good enough. It's going to have no value. Like, what value does this kind of talk have to this?
I'm going to be so humiliated.
Exactly. Like, and but I'm just working with, how do I feel that in the body?
Yeah.
And just coming into approval of, wow, I'm feeling these sensations. I'm just saying yes to my experience in a very sort of positive way. And I'm just giving myself, rather than try and change it, I'm just trying to I'm just giving myself permission to feel it as it is.
Yes.
That's my way into unconditional positive regard, like this word approval.
Yes.
And, and then something changes, you come into sort of more harmony, and, then I'm ready to do the talk. And, there's a room full of 100 people. I'm sitting up there. I've got the big sort of, the TVs there with my, my images ready, and like this beautiful introduction. And I stand up and, what's my name? What am I talking about? What's the first thing? God's sake. All the nerves are sort of flooding back. And it's just, again, there's a approval, like, wow, I'm actually fucking this up. And I'm just in approval of that. And everyone's looking at me. And it turned into this very sort of dramatic moment where they're just waiting for that first thing. And then I just remember my name. And then I remember the first thing I say. And then it just all flows. And it's just an hour-long presentation. And at the end, they do these kind of feedback forms. And it turned out I scored, out of all the talks I'd ever done, I scored top for every single one.
Yeah. And that's such a beautiful reflection to the ability to give yourself one single moment in time before you start doing whatever it is. Acknowledge where the fears that we're talking about come from. Know that they are there. Understand that they are part of you. Love them.
Yes.
And continue doing what you need to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Because some people just try to avoid the feeling, which is probably the most important thing, because it's not a part of me, I'm afraid of it, I wanna suppress it, suppress, and from an active thing of suppression that you say, I don't want to think about it, it becomes a habit, that becomes a pattern, that becomes the reason that you say, why am I not enough, or why am I not? So the solution is to just one moment in time, right?
Yeah.
Just be able to, for 1 second, recognize the patterns that you are working from, not the pattern, because the pie chart of the mind is like, in my eyes, it's like the things that you know, the things that you know that you don't know, and all the things that you don't know that you don't know, which are kind of running us to some extent until you get out of this phase. And at some point you're just, okay, so all I have to do is to acknowledge. Just allow it. Like they say it a lot in stand-up also. Like, just acknowledge what happened.
Yes.
Make it comfortable. Continue.
Yes.
That's life in a nutshell, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just, I think what is really powerful is, how do we meet that experience inside of ourselves? And we need some kind of form of, unconditional positive regard. What I like about approval is it's really simple. It's really clear. And it's actually, one of the ways I sort of explain this is, we can be talking here and you can be accepting of who I am and that I'm here. Or you can be in approval of why I'm here. And it feels to me very different to be
What's
accepted,
the difference?
to feel approved. And it's like that with our feelings, like unconditional positive regard. Like, I get it, but how do I actually direct that to myself? It's a bit sort of ambiguous a little bit. But approval is just like, yes, that's what I'm feeling. And it's easier than, some of us will say, like, to love yourself. And yeah, for sure, I agree. But if you can't give yourself the approval of what you're feeling and permission just to feel it, you can't love it.
How are you going to go to love?
Exactly.
You don't even know what's going on.
Yeah. Like, just to prove that, yes, it's here.
Yeah.
This is me.
It makes it so much easier to say approval than acceptance, because to accept something, you need to go, I need to understand all of it, first of all, and then I need to accept it, because our mechanism will immediately be like, wait, why? Like, which leads me to my next question. Like, how do I know I can accept and I can approve? Like, and how do I differentiate that with my boundaries? Like, let's say in a relationship, or like, I'm going to expand a little bit on myself. Like, I recently got in a relationship after 4 years of being single, that came from me working and being like kind of absent. And finally I feel like, okay, I'm ready to get this reflection. And then you find yourself in situations that what you think and how it seems are two different things, because it's not about you right now. The person in front of you want to feel safe, want to feel secure, want to feel understood. How do you, let's say, like, communicate and reflect without making the person in front of you, or yourself in some cases, not feeling unseen or unheard or not understand that, because it has layers, because first of all, I need to have this relationship with myself of the clear communication before I try to expect myself to talk like that with someone else. So, okay, we've been through it. Approving that this is what I feel right now and this is how it is probably the key to this self thing. How do you put it outside? When the perspective coming from someone that like has been living 25, 30 years with their own perspective, and they don't know that deepest thought in your head.
I know. Well, this is the thing. Like, you're absolutely right. You have to start with, first and foremost, the thing that you can control is your level of approval of who you are and what you want. And then that gives you the choice to reveal that as much as you feel you want to. And also, like, finding it, and this is the hard bit, is, that thing that we say that is going to land, that they're actually going to receive. How much of your truth are they ready to receive? But the more in tune you are with your felt reality, the more in approval you are, the easier it is to feel that level in them. And so you can speak to that. Sometimes it's a very sort of gentle way that we express it. Sometimes we have to express our truth through play, like we're just, making jokes. We're making it fun. We're taking the piss out of ourselves as well, maybe. All this kind of, but it's, that play stems from just curiosity about their experience. There's something I want to express to them, but I need to understand them. If I'm in approval, I have this ability to be actually curious about where are they coming from.
Yes.
I want to understand this thing that we're not gelling. How can I connect? I need to understand them, their perspective more. So then they feel seen. They're ready to hear what I have to say. And then maybe that's when I say the thing that I want to say. But if I'm not in approval of that thing, then there's a dissonance.
Yeah.
It doesn't land, and people feel that. But the more authentic you are, the more in approval you are, the more people actually respect you. They can disagree with you, but they respect you.
Yeah. It can be also so easy, to come, oh no, this wasn't what I meant, like trying to talk to the person in front of you.
Yeah.
But what they hear is, all they hear is you talking about yourself.
Yeah.
And like, do we have any tools or ways of in the moment, because it's easier said than done with sitting in a comfortable space on couches talking about, in the moment, what are some tools that you see maybe with people that you worked or with yourself in your relationship with yourself or whoever it is? Like, what are the tools that bring you back to the present moment, to when you see things are kind of drifting, or when you are not being presented the way you're trying to show yourself? Please help us.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's like coming back to, what do you want to feel? Like, that is the thing that, to me, has to influence how I present myself. What do I say? Like, one of the stories I tell is, coming back to Dangerous. Those moments where I'm like, wow, I'm really bored.
Yeah.
Or actually, I don't like what this person's saying. I need to speak up. I need to share my perspective.
Yeah.
Because they're just, sharing. I'm here. All I'm hearing is them.
Yeah.
There's no space for me.
Yeah.
And I know there's going to be a charged reaction here. What is that thing I'm going to say if I'm dangerous? I was in a party once, and it was like a sort of, for like filmmakers and money people, and it was a bit of a networking kind of event. And I found myself in a group with some really lovely middle-aged women, and talking about nonsense from my point of view.
Yeah.
And which was fascinating. It was fascinating conversation for them. But then the topic, this was when 50 Shades of Grey was a big thing.
Yeah.
And the movie was about to come out, and everyone's like, who's read the book? Like, I can't wait for the film.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God. And then I said to myself, I can leave the party right now. Or if I wanted to be a little bit dangerous, what would I do? What would I say?
Ooh.
And so I said, who here wants to get tied up?
Look at you, Scotxi.
And suddenly the vibe changed.
Yeah.
And everyone got really interested in that topic. And then suddenly we all started sharing our kind of, BDSM light kind of, fantasies or like exploration.
That's cool, yeah.
And it was really interesting. Like it really taught me how sometimes to get to this level of intimacy that we want, or truth or honesty, we have to lead the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's, again, why self-approval's so important, is we need that to be authentic, to be real, to reveal ourselves, to open up to other people. That gives them permission to step out of the facade and the game and be real.
Wow, it's like in this, what can I say to make it a little bit more dangerous now?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful tool.
Yeah.
And now that we've been through like talking about the self-approval and the tools that we can have with ourselves, where does medicine, like the somatic therapy, the medicine comes into play when a person is coming to you and saying like, I feel like something is off in myself. I think like there's some a process or experience that I need to go with myself. How does that come into play in those relationships with ourselves and with our loved ones?
Yeah, I mean, plant medicines are an incredible tool for deep exploration and to go beyond our limits.
Yeah.
They're like a shaman in Peru said to me, describe medicine this way, as it's an amplifier for what we feel and think. And it takes the volume from, the usual volume is like 0 to 10 on a regular day. Now the range is up to 100.
Yeah.
Depending on how deep we want to go.
Yeah.
And so the beauty of it and the terror of it is you can't run away from what you see. That is within you.
Yeah.
And, plant medicines, their jobs, their agendas is to get you to feel more of yourself beyond what you recognize, beyond what you can even describe. But to do that, sometimes, this is the healing part, is you've got to feel those things you don't want to feel or you can't feel because the volume only goes between 0 and 10. You need to increase. You need to increase the bandwidth to a certain level to access something. And I did 10 years of deep somatic work. There were things I knew I couldn't, reach. I could just scratch the surface.
Yeah.
And then, maybe another 20, 30 years, I could have cracked it. But, within 2 years, I was cracking some of these things and shifting them. And there are things that I've, it's been I remember last year I was in a ceremony and I finally completed a 20-year journey of something that I've been working on.
Oh, wow.
10 years somatic regression, just, going around, feeling this thing, just, different levels of it. And then 10 years of plant medicine. And, I'm a veteran of over 400 medicine ceremonies. It's a lot of work. Finally, cracked it.
It's please don't share anything that you don't want to, but may I hear a little bit about it? Because cracking a 20-year-old journey sounds like a powerful experience.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much we don't, the beauty of plant medicine is, one of the most profound fears that we have is fear of death.
Yeah.
Most of us aren't going to be faced with that in life. Fear of death of our ego and our identity is more common.
Yeah.
But, how do we experience that is really it's fear of, facing terror. And when we think about that, lots of things terrify us. Simple things terrify us. Having a child, becoming pregnant, being told your partner's going to have a baby, terrifying. The level of responsibility that suddenly is there in the space. Going traveling, backpacking around the world, suddenly your money's gone, you don't have your credit cards and stuff like that. You're in the middle of nowhere. How are you going to do this?
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Terrifying.
For a woman going out on a date with a guy they don't know.
Yeah.
There's a bit of terror there, Bad things can happen.
Yeah.
All of these things. And, it speaks to this core deep fear, which is all about powerlessness. That is what we're all avoiding, is we don't want to feel powerless.
Yeah.
That's what creates our ego. That's where these other fears that we were talking about earlier start to sort of show up.
Yeah.
This is our fight-flight response kicks in. We don't want to feel, something's happening where terror is, and we don't want to feel powerless. We have to fight or we have to flight. Or there's freeze,
Yeah.
fawn, and other sort of responses. And that's the beauty of plant medicine ceremonies is you will have moments where you face terror, whether that's because you meet something incredibly uncomfortable inside of you that you don't want to look at, or you meet true power. You meet the divine.
Yeah.
That is more terrifying than any dark story you could come up with.
Yeah, 100%.
So, like many people do plant medicines and all kinds and, have this whole range of experiences. But I think that to me is it takes us into such an extreme, profound experience of ourselves that we can't forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which relates super tight to what we explain ourselves is our comfortable zone. The moment your comfort zone is this and you're in there, you feel comfort, no problem. You step a little out, you feel those a little bit more powerless, and it creates like a thing in you with like, oh, I'm rebel. Like, so it's all about understanding that the box that you put yourself in is your manifestation.
Yeah.
Like, is what you chose is going to be comfortable for you. And if you end up in a place that like you're being comfortable with being uncomfortable, that's freedom.
Yes, exactly.
At the end of the day.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
understanding that the situation that is going to come across you has nothing to do with how you feel towards yourself. And like the moment it's like, I see it as like an adapter in your mind, in your existence between what comes from outside and what goes from inside out.
Yeah.
And you can choose that in this adapter, you can choose what to take in.
Yeah.
And you can choose, okay, I see the perspective. I respect the perspective. I choose not to take it, which is part of the dangerous thing that you talk about. It's like, I know what I am and what I want to portray. I'm not saying who I am, because who I am sounds like a box.
Yeah.
Like who I am shapes you in the way of like, oh, I am this and that, but I am not this and that because I chose to be this.
Yeah.
What I am is a human, a system that is capable of pretty much anything.
Yeah.
I just need to come back and realize it again and again. It's not something that is are those things like the ability to know what you are and the systems that you work with. You need to constantly remind yourself that you are them. Right? Like, do you have any specific like ways to that when you feel like a little bit lower or when you feel like a little bit disconnected from this source, like that you remind yourself that you are that I am part of the great part of the source, like what kind of ways do you remind yourself when you're feeling a little bit like farther from this space?
Yeah. I mean, it just comes back to self-approval.
It's all, yeah.
It's like, it's so simple, and yet it's a profound practice. Because it's not something I just do once. I got into approval of that fear. Now I'm liberated from fear. No. It's a constant. It's a dance. I say a lot like we think of life as a journey, but actually to me it's, in some ways it's a journey, but actually it's a dance. Life is. Either, a lot of us are playing this game that I call the Labyrinth. We're trying to get somewhere.
Yes.
And in the Labyrinth, there is the Minotaur. And we're running from the Minotaur. We're trying to get to the center or find the way out before the Minotaur gets us.
Yeah.
And there's another way to play the game. That the Labyrinth is where we're looking for the feeling somewhere. When we start to live from the feeling, our embodied connection to that feeling, our authentic desire, it becomes a playground. The goal is already felt, achieved. Yeah. But we still express that feeling. We are now playing. We are in the playground.
Yeah.
The Minotaur is still there. He's just now our teacher. He's teaching us, how much can you be in peace?
Yes.
Even though terror is here.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Like there's just understanding that what created the Minotaur and what made the Minotaur itself is our resistance to face it.
Yes.
And the longer you resist facing it,
Yes.
the scarier and
Yes.
bigger and more impact he will have on you. But when you go to meet this Minotaur, you see a little puppy that just wants
Yes.
a hug.
Yes. Yes.
You see your places of your existence that you don't feel enough secure and you don't feel like good enough in those realms. And when you come and hug them,
Yeah.
the relationship with the Minotaur is probably the thing in you that will get you learning the most.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
If you go and face the Minotaur.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, you've changed something in the perspective. Yeah, it's not self-acceptance, it's self-approval.
Yeah.
Yeah, self-acceptance also give it like this big, oh, wow. Self-approval. Incredible.
But that's it. It's, you know, and this is a very stoic perspective as well. Is, you know, there's a great book, The Obstacle is the Way, I think it's called. You know, the challenge in front of you is the thing that will take you to growth and to connection, and, you know, into that divine experience, because it's, you know, we have divine experiences when we're so, it's like where our focus and attention meets complexity and our ability to hold that. And that's what a flow state, that's what creates flow state. Whether we sit and meditate for hours on end without moving a muscle, there's a tension there. Stillness in the tension. Or, you know, skiing down the mountain, you know, all I have to do is just make sure I'm going the right way and meet all the different obstacles in the way. And I can't control this. I'm just going with it, and flow happens. Or if I'm sitting in front of a computer with a complex problem, I'm just focused on that, in that complexity, flow happens. Or in a conversation, you know, we're talking about different ideas and, you know, there's a focus there. And then suddenly there's a flow happening and conversation's just unraveling. And
exactly. It's not about the control. Like control will get you fixated.
Yes.
Like if I come, like even about this, if I come with a prepared question that I have, and then I cut whatever it is that we talk about right now in order to ask the question, I just cut the flow.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, like this conversation, like life, it's all about like seeing the things that present themselves to you, understanding what are you as a part of them, how does this make you feel, and creating this flow.
Yeah.
Because in this flow, the flow state, you're gonna just allow yourself to be yourself.
Yeah. And then that's the way into the more of a divine state, like a more connected state. We're in flow. We feel, this is why flow states are so addictive, is it takes us into an experience beyond ourself. We start to touch levels of oneness, and, you know, something, you know, this is why we love going out and getting lost in big nature, because it's something beyond ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, feeling like there's something.
We feel small, you
exactly.
know, suddenly. Like,
yeah, because inside yourself, you have all these pressures that are, this will come from here, and you have like physical stress, and you have like the financial side of things, and but then you go out of yourself and you understand that there is something bigger than yourself, and you understand that you are part of, it's like the spiral effect, you know, like humans on Earth as stars in the galaxy, and like it's all a fractal that goes above and above and above, and like the moment you see that not all existence is you, like right now in the moment, like my problems are seeing as big things like minotaurs in my mind, but the moment you step back and you look at the macro perspective, or like, oh, we came from dust, we're gonna go back to dust, the planet will do itself, life, existence, it's so above us, like, you know, like we might as well just be in like a Orion's belt, you know, like inside of a pearl on a cat somewhere in, but we think it's so deep and so sometimes gruesome and anxious, because it's just part of my perspective.
Yeah.
And because I exist in life through my perspective, then that means the most to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before we finish this, what would be a good way for someone to again, self-approval?
It's a thing to start with.
Yeah. Just understanding that it will get better if you allow it, if you allow the story to unfold.
Yeah.
You know, the moment it's like looking at the shape of the yin and yang.
Yeah.
You have the black, you have the white, but when you understand that life is motion, the black and white is just an idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's constantly gray.
Yeah.
You know, because it's constantly running. So you can be like, okay, if I'm gonna judge myself in the middle of this motion and try to think about this situation without motion, then of course it can look like black and white.
Yeah.
Oh, this is good, this is bad. But it's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
It's constantly changing.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah, I mean, it's, you're speaking to an experience that I call the kingdom, or sometimes I call it the garden. So there's the labyrinth experience, there's the playground experience, and then there's the kingdom. The kingdom is what emerges when we are we're in approval of the labyrinth, and we're living from the playground. And it's this that, we start to understand our divinity. We understand and start to experience that we are also infinite and supreme. We are here on earth in very limited form. Why are we here? We are all love. We are all joy. Infinitely and supreme. Without doubt, without fear, without someone telling us no. And we had a thought, what would it be like not to know this? What would it be like to know doubt, to know fear, to know pain, to forget that love even existed, to have an experience that is the opposite of love, where I don't know that the love will exist at some point. What would that be like? And then to find that love again as if for the first time, to find that joy, to find it and then lose it again. All of these things. And hence we are here. From this perspective of infinite and supreme beingness, to forget all of that, to turn the internet off of God, is the most dangerous thing you can do. And yet we do it. We come here and we do it.
Yeah.
From the infinite and supreme perspective, we are in this moment, in these bodies, each of us having the most profound spiritual experience that is possible within creation. The spiritual experience we're looking for, we're already having it. It's just now, here we are in limited form, trying to reconnect to that memory that we will go back to. We're only here for a short time. This is like a little holiday that we go on, just to shake things up of our infinite supreme perspective. But, now here we are, we have these moments where we the divine is envy of us having this experience, and we are reflecting back to them the signal that we are reconnected to divinity in limited form. And that's this kind of interplay, and that is, the story of Leela in India.
Yeah,
we're in this cosmic drama, and there's a great quote that I like by Alan Watts. He says, "We take too seriously what the gods created for fun." This thing that we're in, this whole video game.
I don't think there's a better spot to let this thought and let this conversation end, because honestly, I knew it's gonna be like that. It's always a pleasure having people that have such an open and awareness.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you so much for this.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
KohPhanCast, guys.
Join the journey, stay for a while.